What's up? It's your boy Carcino here. And as we talk about sports and other things that we do on this thing that we call the internet, we want to talk about things that people don't talk about, the coaches. Now, people always like to say, oh, well, the coach is, he's important. The coach did this and coach did that. And coach. So why everybody screaming about coach? Nobody seems to be focused on the actual thing of what they actually bring to the table. Now, what a coach's job is to do is to get you to implement a plan of winning and attacking, how to learn how to not fall for the traps that you're going to be facing defensively, and on offense, how to flow and move and play as a team. And their other job and their key is to deal with personalities. So let's say for the NBA, this is a more individually promoted business, meaning that they promote one player on each team more than any other player on the team. They take posters, there's multiple commercials, money, and that usually that person's going to end up being the main person that does the most on that team, and the team, all everybody else's job is to fall in line behind that person. That is the projection of the NBA. Normally one super mega star per team. That narrative has now changed to like maybe two or three now per team. But still, as we look at it in totality, the head coach's job is to present the game and to and it's like present the game in a fashion where it looks as if he's in control. When in actuality, the coaches have no control whatsoever what's going on the court. Now, someone with like Pat Riley was on the sideline. He had his hair slicked back. He had the suits. He had a style which commanded the camera to be on him. When they were filming for television, he was on camera probably as much as the game. They would film Pat Riley because he was in a suit, shining cufflinks. He resembled the 80s version of what Los Angeles was about. They were Showtime. And the fact that Chuck Daly from the Detroit Pistons, he emulated this in his form. They all wore suits, but Chuck ended up stepping his suit game up tremendously. And once he stepped his suit game up, everyone else fell in line. They said, you know what? Let's step our suit game up. Let's all look like Pat Riley. Everybody wanted to wear the jewelry, get the hair done. They wanted to have that image, that look. So Pat Riley was the one that set the standards on the look of a coach. Now you got people with different styles. Like what's his name? Doug Moss was hilarious because he wore the most ridiculous suits ever. But he was loud and would yell at you. And then you have coaches who would get on you so much because he felt that the angry, like the angry you were, the harder you were gonna play. The more ticked off you are, the better you gonna play. Be mad at me and play better. Take it out on the court. Some players can react like that. Other players, they shut down. They don't want nothing to do with you. Henceforth, we're going to bring up players versus coaches. Now, we've seen some of the nastiest players versus coaches you can find. But I think probably one of the most hated coaches in the game was probably Don Nelson and definitely, for some reason, Phil Collins. I mean, Doug Collins. I'm like, Phil Collins was a head coach? City out. But no, Doug Collins. He, everybody remember Doug from the Chicago Bulls era. Not every player on that team liked him. Do you understand what I mean? Doug Collins was the person that was going to be very blunt, very direct, and didn't care how you felt about the situation. So when he tells you, like, get the ball to Michael, everybody get the F out the way, this was definitely a situation that was not good. Otis Thorpe is one of the most, I would say he's the most veteran, cool, collective guys there were. And it has become one of the worst feuds in history. And the problem ensued when Doug Collins, who was Michael Jordan's coach, and Oakley was one of his favorite players until Oakley and him got into it one time in a practice. Next thing you know, Charles Oakley was gone, and it was Jerry Krause's reasoning to get rid of him. And Krause tried to blame it on Doug Collins. Doug said, I never said a thing. He was gone. Other players on the team didn't like him, as far as players who he was right about. Brad Sellers was too soft to be in the NBA. And he was like, the only reason I'm playing you is to show Jerry Krause you can't play. So, so when he said that, he had his favorites. He liked Dave Corzine. Dave Corzine was a guy that was rugged, that was going to go out there and do the best he could. And he was like, I got to cut Dave Corzine's minutes to play Brad Sellers, a guy I know can't play. So once this is done, it's a whole different element that hits the field. Like, okay, Doug Collins is a problem, personnel-wise. And everyone felt that Michael Jordan got Doug Collins fired when they said that wasn't the case. They wanted to go in another direction from Doug Collins. Even though Doug's move of moving Michael Jordan to the point position really revolutionized the game and helped the Chicago Bulls, who was in a slide before that happened. So in the 89 season, when Michael Jordan played that position of point guard and they were able to sneak a lot of teams, it opened up the floor, letting Michael bring the ball up because teams didn't know how to get into defensive sets to stop it in time. So narratives change. Then you have growing situations on a basketball court. Henceforth, the situation with Otis Thorpe. And that's why I was going to Thorpe too fast. I didn't want to speed up that fast. But Otis Thorpe was a consummate professional player. He's normally a quiet guy, but he could not deal with the arrogance of Doug Collins. When he does interviews, he's talking about him and what he can do, and he's like, You're not out there. We're out there, the players. Why is everyone talking about Doug Collins as if he's a savior? Doug lets it go to his head that it's Doug Collins, and if we lose, he's not going to sleep well at night, and all of these different things. Otis Thorpe thought he was just an attention stealer and, taking the play away from the players. So he said something to the resorts of in the timeout. Otis Thorpe gets mad right live on TV and goes, "You know what? Since you're the star, right? Why don't you go out there and you hit the shot? I'm gonna sit on the bench. You go out there and hit the shot in the huddle. You go do it." So in practice, it got worse. And the only thing Doug was gonna do was bench him. And Doug Collins was like, "Look, he's quit on the team." And Doug started taking him more out of the offense. And once he disagreed with Doug, Doug is not the type that's going to back down. Doug is the type that'll get mad, get red, get in your face. He's an old school coach. So once Doug says, "I'm done with you," Otis Thorpe has to be moved. It was a disconnect with the Pistons and Doug Collins, but Otis Thorpe had to go because Otis Thorpe was going to beat the living dog snot out of Doug Collins. And the NBA told him, if you do that, you're not only going to be kicked out of the NBA, you might face criminal charges. Now, PJ Carlesimo, Latrell Sprewell. Everyone knows about this incident, except for the fact, except for the fact, PJ Carlesimo is a very nice coach. He really is. He's not really a problem of like people having an issue with PJ Carlesimo. On this day, he is getting on the players because they had been losing a few games and things weren't going in the direction the team was hoping for once they started. So when everything was, not going well in a practice, all of a sudden he gets on Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell, it got to a point where it got so heated, he was thrown out of practice. So when he was thrown out of practice, he went upstairs, got his stuff, and left. He had went up to the office to complain to the about the incident, about the coach. And PJ is going in on him like, I want him off the property, period. Like, he get him out of here. And as he was throwing him out, he just couldn't take it no more. He said a couple words, and he went over there and he choked him, literally choked him, and like trying to kill somebody type choke. And it was like people standing there, they were more surprised than anything. And that was the thing. After that was done, he left. They kicked him out. He comes back in to practice like about a half hour later, ready to go and complain like, look, I want this. See, he's got to go. The coach. And the crazy thing about it is everybody tried to make a story out of it more than what it was. Like, this is a black guy, this is a white coach. What did the white coach say? Did he call him the N-word? What made Latrice Sprewell go crazy and choke the coach? So Latrell Sprewell was allowed back on the team because they couldn't suspend him. They suspended him, like gave him a light punishment, and the players, the owners and coaches and everybody else, they made Latrell Sprewell the bad guy. Well, something had to be done. He had to go. And to this day, they are not really cool. Ever since that incident, you know how people be like, oh, it's in the past. They'll say it's in the past, but it's not in the past. So we'll leave that there. We'll do part 2 later because I don't want to make these videos super long and take up too much of your time. But there are plenty of these stories y'all don't know nothing about. And we just getting warmed up. But at the PJ situation, a lot of people know about. And Otis Thorpe and Doug, people know about that. So part 2 is going to go into a lot of deeper stuff. I'm out.